If you're looking at early retirement soon, chances are you have a sizable brokerage account, which I am a huge fan of. Now, that is not a problem, but it could present some challenges depending on when you invested. So, if you've done a great job and you have invested in a few great companies, the problem with having a large brokerage with a few great companies means there's large embedded gains, especially if you invested over the last 10 to 15 years. So if you're looking at retiring in the next 5 years, I want to introduce you to a strategy that could apply to your situation. Again, this video is not meant to be personal financial, tax, or investment advice. It's just for education, and it's a very nuanced strategy, to be fair. So when it comes to capital gains in a brokerage account, you have multiple options. I actually made an entire video about that. So if you want to watch that first before you watch the rest, go for it. But what I'm going to discuss in this video is called the 351 exchange. Now, before we go any further, my name is Forrest Dutton. I am the owner of Brightworks Financial Planning. I am a certified financial planner. My goal is to help you retire with confidence. And so this video introducing you to the 351 exchange is going to show you what it is, who it's for, and who it's not for, and where it fits in your financial plan. So let's get into it. What is it? So in a 351 exchange, it was originally created, that just refers to where it is in the IRS code. It was created so that when someone contributes physical assets to a corporation in exchange for the corporation's stock, they could do that in a tax-free manner. So think like someone is contributing a factory to a corporation in creating a subsidiary because now they own the corporation stock. That would be an example of maybe the spirit of the law when it was created. Now, what's happening now is a corporation can be in the form of an ETF or an exchange traded fund. So basically, if you contribute your holdings, and in this case appreciated holdings, to a newly created exchange traded fund in what's called a 351 exchange, you exchange your holdings for the stock of this corporation. In this case, it's going to be a newly created registered investment company, also known as an ETF. So you own that now. As long as you own that at the outset of when it is seeded or started, that is a tax-free exchange. So again, it does not eliminate taxes, it defers them. So this is a deferral strategy, but here's why it can be really, really important. Because if you know that you are still subject to higher capital gains, maybe you live in a state that just has high capital gains, or you know your income is not going to drop, meaning I've talked a lot in my videos about the 0% capital gains bracket, but maybe you're not going to be in that, or maybe you're only going to be in it in a very short time frame. So in that case, it might benefit for you to defer those capital gains and also to diversify. So that in a nutshell is what a 351 exchange is. Now I'm going to show you how it works. So what are the rules? You can't just do this with any portfolio. So there's really a two-part test you have to pass. It's called the 25-50 test. So 25 refers to 25% of the portfolio value. So you cannot hold any one security in that portfolio that is greater than 25% of the total value. And then the 50 rule would be the top 5 holdings in that portfolio cannot make up more than 50% of the value of the portfolio. So let's do a quick test here. So let's just say that you own $400,000 in NVIDIA, you own $100,000 in Tesla, you have $100,000 in Apple, you have $150,000 in Meta, $75,000 in Amazon. So if we add all that up, that is $825,000 of those stocks. Okay, so that's going to be 5 stocks, but your total portfolio, say you have another ETF, it's a global based ETF, it is consisting of global securities and bonds. So for this case, we're eliminating US because you have to look at the total value. So if that other ETF was also an S&P 500 ETF, it contains in a certain percentage those companies I just named. So in this case, you add up those 5, what's 8, and the rest of that portfolio, the total together would be $2 million. So let's just start from scratch. What is the 25% rule? Well, our biggest holding is 400,000. So as long as that is less than 25% of that total 2 million, check, We got that one. Now, what are the top 5 together? That's 825,000. Is that less than half of 2 million? Check. So we passed the 25-50 rule. Now, me explaining that had a reason, and it's because I hope you know by hearing that this is not a strategy you can use if you say, I own everything in one stock and I'm really concerned about the gains. Well, you're out of luck. You can't use a 351 exchange for that. You can use a strategy called an exchange fund, but that's not the focus of this video. That has more illiquidity. Your funds are locked up for 7 years. They're usually higher fee. That is more of a private equity type investment, but that's not the focus of this video. So hopefully that helps you understand at least the logistics of how this might work. Now let's talk about scenarios where this would make sense. So there's really two. One would be, again, you want to diversify something that is at least already diversified slightly, but you want it to be more diversified. So when would this make sense? So like I said, in that scenario, you have these 5 large stocks, the rest of it is ETFs, and then you're concerned that you don't know what the future of those stocks are going to be, and you also know that you're going to pay high capital gains tax, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So that would be a great situation where maybe you're starting into retirement, but you know you're still going to have higher income. You don't want to take the hit on those capital gains because it doesn't fit with your overall financial plan. So you may want to do a 351 exchange. The second would be maybe you had a custom index or a direct index portfolio, and you've done some loss harvesting, and because of that you have a low cost basis in the portfolio. Now usually that's good, but if you don't plan to gift this, meaning you don't want to hold it until death, one option you could have here is do a 351 exchange, because by definition those direct index portfolios are usually diversified. So meaning you own many different securities in low percentages, and you just want to defer those gains and you want to invest maybe for distribution instead of growth, because a lot of times a custom index is a growth engine that can then harvest losses along the way. But if you're locked up, so over time, especially if it's a long only custom index account, that will stop generating loss opportunities. So that would be a second reason to do it. And let me just take a minute to say why you would not do this. So if you're going to be in the 0% capital gains bracket soon, you probably shouldn't do this, because you can actually take those gains that are in there and just start paying 0% on them and go ahead and distribute them, because that does two things. It helps you from a tax perspective, and it also helps you from a diversification perspective and sequence of returns. As you're living off the proceeds of those sales, you're becoming less and less concentrated. So that can be helpful. Now, the other thing I wanted to say here about this is you have to do this only as an ETF is created. So unlike any other ETF out there, when you do a 351 exchange, it has to be what's called seeded. So meaning you have to transfer your portfolio into the newly created 351 exchange ETF. Now there are companies that do this, and they're doing it on an increasing basis. There's not a lot of companies out there that are doing this right now, but the ones that are doing it seem to be coming out with these on about a quarterly basis. So how to know if this is right for you? Helpful to talk to an advisor, working with the asset management team. This is an active strategy. This is not passive, but the ETF nature does help keep some of the costs lower. It's not nearly as low as an index fund, but you are doing this for tax deferral purposes. So not right for everybody, very much a nuanced strategy. It could have a place in your financial plan. Hope you learned something about it. I'd love to know what you think. Please comment below. And if you like this content, please like, subscribe. That's how I reach more people. Again, don't know if it's right for you, but it's right for someone. So I hope you learned something, and I will see you on the next video.